Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for checking the video out today. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today. So before we dive into these topics, do me a big favor. If you end up enjoying this video or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like. It helps the videos out more than you know. And if you are new here to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button as well. So the first topic we're talking about is Sony talking about their investment into Fromsoftware and why they did it, what they're looking to achieve. So this is good news for, I think, any PlayStation fan who is a fan of Fromsoftware as well. Reading from PlayStation Lifestyle, it says, fancy an Elden Ring movie. It looks like PlayStation Studios boss Hermen Hulst might be entertaining the idea. In a new interview with Reuters, the head honcho revealed that Sony Interactive Entertainment's minority stake in Fromsoftware might not be limited to video game collaborations. With PlayStation Productions off to a successful start, the company is eyeing movie and TV show collaborations as well. Elden Ring publisher Bandai Namco Entertainment has previously expressed its interest in turning Elden Ring into an IP that goes beyond video games. As a matter of fact, the company was talking about exploring other media with Elden Ring as early as June last year, well before the game released. It's hard to say if Bandai Namco would opt for the Hollywood or Netflix-style treatment via PlayStation Productions or not. Sony's PlayStation movie/TV show wing has seen significant success with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg in Uncharted, and the upcoming HBO Last of Us series is looking strong as well. With all that said, a Bloodborne movie isn't outside of the realm of possibility either. You should think of collaborations on the game development side first and foremost, but it's also not unthinkable our PlayStation Productions efforts will explore opportunities. This is exactly what Hermen Hulst said. So this is something that a lot of people were picking up on, because when we talked about Sony investing in Fromsoftware, the first thing a lot of people began to think was, oh, okay, maybe this means we're going to get more exclusive games or another exclusive title from Fromsoftware. And that, I think, is going to happen at some point. I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's just a matter of when, and it could be a new IP, it could be a Bloodborne successor, which I think a lot of people would want to see that as well. But something that Hermen Hulst is trying to make clear here is they want to be involved with Fromsoftware, with their PlayStation Productions teams, and it makes sense. Sony clearly sees the potential with Fromsoftware here, and so, you know, it remains to be seen what exactly they're going to do. I mean, you know, this article's talking about an Elden Ring movie. We're hearing about them mentioning the possibility of a Bloodborne movie, and so, yeah, at this point, it seems like anything is possible. Let me know your thoughts about that. Next up, we're talking about Sony and their current stance on future cross-gen games. This is something that I think a lot of PlayStation fans are wondering about, because God of War Ragnarok is about to launch, and I think the general consensus is that Ragnarok marks the last big AAA title from Sony that will also release on PS4. Reading from PlayStation Universe, it says, PlayStation Worldwide Studios boss Hermen Hulst has said that Sony isn't done making PS4 games yet, stating that the format holder will evaluate the situation on a case-by-case basis. Speaking during an interview with Axios, Hulst, who previously headed up Horizon Zero Dawn developer Guerrilla Games, said that Sony is mindful about not forgetting the millions of PS4 owners despite PS5 being an obvious focus for the company. Quote, "We certainly don't want to forget the millions of active players on PS4, and we want to ensure there are great games for them as well. We are evaluating it on a case-by-case basis," end quote. Now, this got a lot of people talking and assuming that games like Spider-Man 2 and even Wolverine and future PS5 exclusives that are in development that we don't currently know about, these games are going to be announced to also be cross-gen. Now, look, I don't want to say anything definitively here because, as we know, anything can change. But what I will say is I find it extremely unlikely that games like Spider-Man 2, Wolverine, and many others, such as maybe whatever Sucker Punch is working on, I don't think these games are going to be cross-gen. I think what Hermen is trying to say here is that there may be some titles, as he says, on a case-by-case basis, that it just makes complete sense to release them on PS4. And I don't think games like Spider-Man 2 and these bigger AAA titles that are, you know, well in development on PS5, I just don't think it makes sense for them to try to make PS4 versions, because when we think about games like Horizon Forbidden West and even God of War Ragnarok, we have to understand that these games began development on PS4 first and then became PS5 games. The games that we're seeing in development now that are coming out in 2023, 2024 and beyond, it's the other way around. They started development on PS5. So it's very unlikely they're even going to be able to run on PS4. And so he's probably talking about some multiplayer live service games, or maybe just some games where it's like, realistically, does this game need to be on the PS5 only? Is it possible for it to easily run on the PS5 because it's just not a massive game? It's not a bigger AAA title. You know, something that I think we've seen, and it's worth noting, is Sony will just keep games on PS5 if they're taking advantage of the PS5. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Returnal, these are games that have not made their way to PS4, and it's because the developer said that we couldn't get it to work on the PS4. So yeah, I think, people are kind of jumping to conclusions here, and it's understandable. It's understandable how when people, think about Sony talking about, we believe in generations and pushing forward with a PS5 and its new features, but then also 2 years later, still talking about how, some games will release on PS4 on a case-by-case basis. Again, I wouldn't assume that this means big AAA titles that are in development on PS5 right now are going to be getting PS4 versions. That would be quite the shocker. Moving on to the next topic, though, we have good news for anybody who is a fan of Guerrilla's Decima engine, as it's been confirmed that multiple studios are actually using this engine right now. So, reading from PlayStation Universe, once again, it says a number of Sony's first-party PlayStation studios are using Horizon Forbidden West's Decima game engine to develop new projects. The original iteration of the Decima game engine was used in the development of Killzone Shadowfall for the PS4 and was later used for Horizon Zero Dawn, Until Dawn, and Death Stranding. The tech was later updated for Horizon Forbidden West and is now being adopted by numerous first-party studios at the PlayStation maker. And so this is, again, an interview with Hermen Hulst, this time with Famitsu Magazine, and he said, of course, there is also sharing of technology. For example, there are several studios using Guerrilla Games' Decima engine. We also place importance on improving our technology, and we share that idea among the studios. And so, yeah, this was something I wanted to share with you guys briefly because I think the Decima engine is awesome. Every game I've seen running on the Decima engine has looked incredible, and it's ran really well. And I think most recently we've really kind of seen what Guerrilla Games can do and what this engine can do when it's pushed a little bit, with them really kind of, trying to do some significant things with Forbidden West. And, we're hearing about other teams using it. You have to wonder if there are currently any teams taking advantage of the Decima engine that have yet to announce their games. I imagine that that's probably what he's alluding to here. So I assume we're going to get some future game announcements from Sony, and we're going to find out that the game we're learning about is actually using the Decima engine, which will be pretty cool. Speaking of that, speaking of the Decima engine and Death Stranding, the next topic seems to be what is a big, I would assume, PlayStation 5 game being teased here. Now, it's worth noting we do not have explicit confirmation that this is a PS5 game, but what everybody seems to be thinking right now is that Death Stranding 2, or the sequel to Death Stranding, is currently being teased by Kojima Productions. Now, considering Sony owns the Death Stranding IP, it's safe to say it will be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Maybe it'll release on PC as well. But reading from Push Square, they have an original story and then there's an update. So the original story says here that, as previously reported, Elle Fanning will star in Hideo Kojima's next game. Unfortunately, we don't actually know which game this is referring to. There's an extremely strong speculation out there right now that Death Stranding 2 is in development. It recently appeared on a leaked list of PS5 projects under the codename Ocean, but we know that Kojima is also working on other titles, including an experience for Xbox. That's not stopping Kojima from continuing to tease, however. With Fanning now officially confirmed, the industry icon has taken to hinting at a new actress in a silhouette form on Twitter. While fans have yet to figure this out, the strongest suggestion we've seen thus far is Japanese-Australian star Shilo Katsuna, hopefully I'm saying their name correctly, who most recently featured in Apple TV's Invasion. We assume this is building up to a game announcement, and we're kind of hoping, we're banking that it will be Death Stranding 2, but as of right now, we don't really know what it is. Now, there are two updates to this story. So the first update says, well, there has been some mystery as to whether Hideo Kojima's cryptic cast photos pertained to a Death Stranding sequel or another project entirely. However, a producer at Kojima Productions may have cleared up the mystery. So as spotted by Gamatsu, we have a producer over at Kojima Productions who tweeted this out and said, so many questions, who's excited to see what's coming next? Hashtag Death Stranding, hashtag where am I? Now we have a second update, which is this producer deleting the tweet and then saying, guys, I'd love to share your excitement, but it was a long day and I simply failed to put a question mark at the end of a tag. Let's see what's true. Death Stranding, question mark, hashtag mystery. So this is where we're at right now with the teasing of Kojima's next game. And something else I do want to mention, a lot of people are speculating that Elle Fanning is actually going to play Lou as an adult from Death Stranding, the first game. And they're also mentioning how there seems to be strands in the picture with Elle Fanning. And again, that seems like a direct hint that this is Death Stranding related. Now, obviously, that's just pure speculation. The thing that I find interesting here is how the Kojima Productions producer is trying to, I guess, cover this up where, yeah, maybe she did kind of spoil it, but even if she didn't, I mean, I feel like at this point, everybody is looking at this and saying that's Death Stranding. So it doesn't seem to me that she really gave anything away. Maybe she just confirmed what everybody was thinking. And so she's adding a question mark. And the thing that's strange to me about this is rather than just deleting the tweet and leaving it alone and letting the conversation die down and people, a lot of people would not be aware that she said this in her tweet, she seems to be trying to get people to think it's a different game or another game. And that to me is interesting because I feel like that's not really what you would do if you accidentally revealed what it is. I feel like the protocol is you just delete the tweet and you don't say anything more about it. But, again, this is Kojima we're talking about. There's always mystery surrounding his next projects. So we'll have to see. I'll keep you guys updated. But at this point in time, I'm leaning towards this being the Death Stranding sequel that's been rumored. And so moving on to the final topic here, we have more comments from Hermen Hulst, this time regarding PlayStation acquisitions and how he's saying that they help the growth of studios. So reading from Gaming Bolt, they say despite its spree of buying studios to bring them into the PlayStation Studios fold, PlayStation doesn't believe that it is taking these developers off the market. In response to recent conversations about the big video game companies consolidating video game development, head of PlayStation Studios Hermen Hulst said that PlayStation is helping the growth of new studios. Having absorbed 7 studios into its PlayStation Studios label thus far, Hulst states that the acquisitions of studios isn't an arms race in a new interview with French YouTuber Julien Chiez. So he says, we are always working with teams that have a strong creative vision that we feel fit PlayStation Studios culture like a glove, which they do. That's really important to us, and also a lot of these teams were actually helping stem them up. So we recently acquired Haven, and that's our first studio in Quebec, first studio in Canada, founded by, amongst others, Jade Raymond. We were really impressed with their ambition level, with their creative vision, and I think bringing them in-house actually enables us to create a studio to help stand up a studio much faster and much more rigorously than keeping them external. So the idea that we're taking teams off the market is not necessarily true. It's sometimes quite the opposite, that we're helping come to life new studios that are going to deliver wonderful new experiences to the PlayStation community. So that's what Hermen Hulst had to say, and honestly, I'm glad that he said this, and I agree 100% with what Hermen's saying here, because when you look at the way Sony has approached acquiring studios, realistically, the only studio that I think was kind of surprising was Bungie, but even then, it was clear why Sony purchased them. That was for their live service efforts, but every other studio, it makes complete sense. Sony is investing in studios that have either been partnered with them for years and proven that they can do a lot more when they're underneath the PlayStation Studios banner by getting that extra funding and that extra support, or by, as he points out here, kind of identifying new studios with veteran talent that have a lot of ambition, that have the potential to do great things, and kind of just making sure that they can get in there on the ground floor and maybe take it a step further, bring them in and grow them. And so the most important thing to point out here is I do think that Hermen Hulst is correct when he says basically we feel as though we're helping teams that we're acquiring, and the way we're helping them is we're allowing them to reach another level and achieve their ambitions. And I think we've actually seen that proven out. You know, this isn't just talk. This is something that we've seen time and time again. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you did find it informative. Again, if you did, leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.